start with an opening statement, and then we'll get to questions.
All right. Appreciate everyone coming this afternoon. This press conference is about Damar Hamlin, whom we love. It's about his parents, Mario and Nina, and their extended family. We continue to pray for them during this time, and Damar is and remains our number one concern. I'd like to thank a number of people. We'd like to thank a number of people before we get into your questions, as there have been so many people involved in Damar's situation, and if we leave somebody out, we apologize. First, I'd like to thank the first responders on the field this past Monday evening, and the medical teams of the Bills, the Bengals, and the staff, doctors and nurses at the University of Cincinnati Medical Center for their work and their care. Terry Pagula, the Buffalo Bills staff, coaches, and players, as well as their families who have all been affected and impacted by this situation. The amount of faith, hope, and love that we saw on display over the last 3 days has been nothing short of amazing. I'd also like to thank the entire Bengals organization, their ownership, and specifically Zach Taylor, his staff, and their players, and going above and beyond and handling the situation the way that they did. The officiating crew that was on the field, led by Sean Smith, and the way that they handled that situation with extreme poise and compassion certainly helped in the minutes that that situation unfolded on the field, in the minutes after as well. Both Roger Goodell and Troy Vincent and their leadership from the league office, as well as the NFL Players Association and Don Davis. Fans of both the Bills and the Bengals, along with the many other fans and organizations that we've heard from over the last 3 days. And then I'd also like to thank you, the media, for your respect and privacy and compassion, again, over the last 3 days as we've dealt with this situation and going forward as well. Finally, and just as important as anything, is glory to God for his keeping Damar and his family in the palm of his hand over the last couple of days, and his healing powers. With that, I'll turn it over to you.
Sean, listening to the doctors today that we were able to talk to on that Zoom call, updating the progress he's made, particularly over the last 24 hours. How encouraging is that? And Josh, you can jump in here too. What's your reaction as you hear that?
Yeah, very encouraging. We've been getting incremental updates. And Brandon and Nate, Brandon Bean and Nate Bresky, Nate being our head trainer, as well as Tabani. Richard stayed behind in Cincinnati at the hospital. They've been there the whole time. And so my hat goes off to them as well. But they've been giving us updates, or Damar's doctors have been giving our doctors updates, Dr. Bisson here in town. And then the updates have flowed basically through either Brandon and Nate or Dr. Bisson, or directly from Damar's doctors. And the news has been very encouraging as we all are up to date at this point, and just extremely grateful.
Josh, what can you say about the leadership of your head coach when this happened, when Damar collapsed, and ultimately deciding this game should not be played?
Yeah, the way he handled it was, he was a perfect man in that situation to handle that type of situation. I can't say enough about what he did, what he said to us in the locker room. Obviously just a dire circumstance that nobody's expecting, nobody's ready for. There's nothing that you can train about doing. Like, you can never put yourself in that situation until it happens. And I want to thank I know Coach mentioned it earlier, but our training staff for going out there, not knowing what's going on, but going through a checklist, working as a single cell symbiote, like saving his life, and is being on that field. You lose sleep, you hurt for your brother, a lot of shared grief, but to the question before, getting updates and positive updates eases so much of that pain and that tension that you feel, but Coach handled it as perfect as anybody could.
Josh, can you take us through, you personally, but even your teammates as well, the level of fear that you were facing when you were, because it was clear you guys knew what was going on. Can you just share maybe some of the level of fear you guys had?
Yeah, I don't typically like using emotion to answer questions, but yeah, like the scene just replays over and over in your head, and there's, again, it's hard to answer that question and actually describe how, I felt, how my teammates felt in that moment. It's something we'll never forget, but to know that Damar is doing okay, and I know there's still a lot of things and stuff that he has to process and continue to go through to get back to himself. We're just, again, we heard that news this morning, and there's nothing that could have been told to us to bring our day down. We're extremely happy for him and his family. We just want to love up on him. So the next chance we get, I don't know when it's going to be. If we get to see him anytime soon, man, it's going to be awesome.
Sean, can you give your version of the conversation you had with Zach Taylor, where he said, he quoted you as saying you had to be with your guy at the hospital? If you could just, pick it up from.
Yeah. I caught a little bit of that, and just very appreciative of Zach, and I'll start there. I mean, Zach, the NFL is such a competitive league, and games are so competitive. You spend all week, right, preparing to beat each other, and as fast, and Josh can attest to this, as that was unfolding in those situations, it's, as Josh alluded to, you prepare for things to go wrong in the game as you visualize the game unfolding, just so you're ready, but they're not of that nature, right? They're on the field, they're schematic challenges and whatnot, and so as competitive as this league is, Zach quickly recognized the situation, and when you can engage with the opposing coach, and he and you and Zach and I were on the same page so quickly there, it was amazing that how compassionate Zach was, and his players. I'm jumping ahead here, Vic, but their captains came down to our locker room and met with our team and captains, and just an amazing show of compassion, empathy, love, and it's just so amazing because minutes before that, we were going at each other, and so my hat goes off to Zach and the Bengals, as I've said before, but so it unfolded so quickly, and things have happened so quickly since that point in time, with balancing everything that we're balancing. I really haven't thought back clearly about the steps in order, but I do, when Zach said that, I do recall it. I'd forgotten that, but it brought it back to my mind that after Damar got loaded into the ambulance, I remember thinking to myself, we're going to need some time, we being the Bills at least, and we're so conditioned to a player is taken off the field who is injured, to going right back into that mode, and so I said to Sean Smith, I said, hey, we're going to need some time here. And again, he was tremendous. And then I remember going back to our sideline, had a conversation with Leslie Frazier, and I can't even remember what Leslie said, but he was a help as well. And then I went back to Sean and said, I don't feel good about this, and or something to that effect. And then he came back. He was going to go talk to Zach. Zach comes over. I think as Zach has recounted since that point in time. And then the league was involved, and so we went back to the the league helped in this way as well, saying, hey, it's okay to go back into your locker rooms. And so we headed that direction. And then the way things unfolded from there was really we were in the front of our locker room, not quite out in the hallway at that point, but having conversations amongst ourselves. I think I went in and addressed the team and just felt like overall it was going to be really hard to put them back out there, but I wanted to give them the option to go back out there if they wanted to. And led by Josh and a couple of the other captains, they decided not to go back out there. And so going then from our locker room out our doors to the hallway where Sean and the rest of the officiating crew, as well as Don Aponte from the league, they were there, making sure that they were there for us. And then Zach also walked down outside of our locker room. And I'm not sure what was covered on television or not. So, and then again, the follow-up conversation that needed to happen ensued right there outside of our locker room.
Sean, how do you go, and Troy Vincent talked eloquently yesterday about how you were battling, and this team was battling, and how the focus was on really just mental health and
Yeah.
getting through this. How difficult was that part? How uplifting was the news this morning? And with Mario Hamlin speaking to the team?
Yeah.
And how do you just turn your attention now moving forward to try to play a game?
Yeah. Fair question. It's, mental health is real, and, I think as a coach and as leaders of organizations, number one, Terry Pagula does a great job of leading in that regard for us. But the job description of a coach is not just coaching X's and O's, and it's much more than that. And so, the health, to me, the health and well-being of your staff and your players is the number one job of a coach in this situation. And so that includes mental health.
Sean and Josh, can you follow up on that? Was there, the media has spoken about you admiringly about your approach to mental health this week. Can you talk about whether there was any formal, I guess I'm thinking like the equivalent of brief counseling or anything formal for the team or resources that were made available to them this week?
Yes, we provided, we have already in-house staff that is their main responsibility to not only the players but also the staff. And then in this case, we were able to add additional counselors when we arrived back here on a Tuesday morning. We weren't supposed to have a mandatory meeting or any function that day as a quote-unquote players' day off, mandatory, but we scheduled a 12 o'clock team meeting and had additional counselors on hand to help in that regard, generally to the overall team, but then in breakout sessions from there, if need be.
Coach, what have you seen from your team, or what would you need to hear that will make you comfortable with playing the game at 1 p.m. and Josh, after he's done, you could follow up, just the idea of moving forward and playing for Damar?
Yeah, when Damar's father spoke to us, again, the days have blended together here. So today is Thursday. So yesterday, Damar's father spoke to the team, and really his message was the team needs to get back to focusing on the goals that they had set for themselves. Damar would have wanted it that way, and I'm paraphrasing. And so that includes our game against New England this week. And I think that has helped. And then again today, the news today, as Josh alluded to, was a huge help to getting us back to focused on the game this weekend.
Yeah, and I'd say from a player's view, hearing Mario talk to us, the words of encouragement that he had for us, And I had the chance actually to talk to him Monday night, and the only thing he said was, my son's going to be all right.
Coach, how, no other coach has experienced what you was a part of on Monday night. How was it for you to keep your players level with their emotions while you dealt with your emotions at that moment?
Yeah, I mean, what I did, and listen, this is not about me, this is about Damar and his family, and that's why I started the way I did. I really feel like I did what anybody else would have done. And so when you're in those situations, you just react. And when you prepare for a game, the game can slow down because you've prepared for the game and you visualized it ahead of time. In this case, I can tell you it was moving very slowly at the beginning, just as Damar was on the field. Time was just creeping by as we were trying to get a response to how he was doing. And then from that point on, it moved very, very quickly in terms of us trying to get to a decision and do the right thing. And I think that's really what it really comes down to, is just trying to do the right thing for everyone involved.
Josh, what do you expect Sunday to be like for you and for this entire team?
Little difficult to answer that question. I think for every person, it's going to be a little different. I think putting that helmet back on today was a really good thing for our team, and just to kind of go through that process. But I'd be lying to you if I didn't say, some people are going to be changed forever, after being on the field and witnessing that and feeling those emotions. But again, the best way that we can continue to move forward, obviously, the updates that we keep getting on Damar really lift our spirits, leaning on each other, talking to each other. We've had some very open and honest and deep talks, some unbelievable, it sounds weird, but embraces as men, just hugging somebody and actually leaning into them. There's been a lot of that going around, and you need every bit of it. You really do. And again, I think the fact that we just keep hearing good news about Damar, it just keeps pushing us forward.
You mentioned how Mario's words have helped you move forward. Obviously, the word of him being awake and seems like he's going to be okay obviously gets you much closer to calm. Why do you have to play Sunday?
I'll say I'm not on the field playing, and I think there is a little bit of a different dimension when you're actually out there playing, in particular because of what Josh was referring to. I feel strongly that as his dad, as Mario mentioned to us, that this is what Damar would have wanted and wants. And we owe that, this is my opinion and my take on it, we owe that to Damar and we owe that to his family.
Do you think this is what the NFL should want?
I'm not going to comment on that.
Josh, to hear, Damar's remarks when he first was awake, that you win the game, how much, would that drive you and the rest of the team going forward?
Yeah. His dad said the first thing that he's going to ask when he wakes up is who won the game. And sure enough, that's what he did, man. And as teammates, you love hearing that response, that the first thing on his mind wasn't, poor me. It was, how are my teammates doing? Did we win this game? And that's powerful in itself, man. And I don't think people really understand the bond and the relationship and the brotherhood that you have as an NFL team, especially this one here. Guys love each other, and we really do. And for, obviously Damar to go through that and to come out on the other side and still, again, just thinking about his teammates, that's Damar. That's who he is, though.
Sean, through all the adversity this team and community has gone through.
Yeah.
Just, do you wonder if it's the cruel thing, and you've overcome them?
Yeah.
How do you now overcome this one? And do you wonder if the cruel fates are just, playing games with you, and how do you overcome this one?
Well, I'm a Christian man to begin with, and I'm not afraid to say that. And I know that when you're trying to do good things or great things, that sometimes you come across opposition. I'll leave that part of it there. And how do I know that we'll be able to overcome is we have to. Just like we've done many times before in this city and the people of Western New York that have dealt with what they've dealt with, that's what you do. And I've never been around a city or a region like this that is so in sync, their teams and the fan base, and I mean that. And I know this is Josh's only team since he's been in the NFL, but I'm sure he would echo the same thing. And this is what Western New York and the fans of the Buffalo Bills, this is what we do.
Josh, you can only speak for yourself. You obviously are a leader on this team, but the images of you and a lot of your teammates after that happened, I mean, they're powerful. How do you personally feel impacted by what you saw moving forward in football?
Yeah, just a lot of things going through the mind, obviously on the field, and didn't grasp, I guess, the reality of it until you start hearing things from the medical team. And again, the weight that has been lifted on myself and everybody else's shoulders, obviously after hearing the updates. But it was tough. It is tough to know that this is a game that we play and we're able to, put all of our emotions and off the field stuff away.
At least that was a happy song.
Yeah, exactly.
Well done, Sal. Sorry, guys. Hey, Sean, while everyone's laughing at me, we come to learn that Denny Killington was the person
Yeah.
who delivered the CPR. Can you maybe share a thought about his performance, basically?
Again, amazing. To give it context to some extent, Denny is one of our assistant trainers. Nate Bresky is our head trainer. And so just like anything else, that whole team, our medical team, they go through their exercise, mock exercises for things like this. But we are never around to see that when they do that. And as they say, practice pays off, and it did in this case. But again, the context of it, for an assistant to find himself at that position and needing to take the action that he did and step up and take charge like he did, and there were others on the field as well, is nothing short of amazing. And the courage that took, that is, you talk about a real leader, a real hero, and saving Damar's life, and just admire his strength.
Sean, what has it been like to see the support throughout the country? What has it been like to see the support throughout the country? There's millions of dollars that have come in for Damar's foundation. What has that been like to see, not just here in Western New York, but across the entire country?
Yeah, I'm not a big social media person, but Josh did share something with me via text that he saw earlier today, and I looked at it, and it was, maybe you've seen it, it's about what maybe Damar's mom is going to share with him when he wakes up, and it's excuse me, it's amazing to know the impact that this has had on so many people, and for now Damar to be awake and his mom to be able to share that with him it's incredible.
Josh, what do you think the moment is going to be like when you're first able to talk with Damar?
I mean, obviously, just tell him how much we love him as a team. It's a kid that walks around the facility that you never see in a bad mood. He's always upbeat, just wants to go out there and play football. And we're looking forward to that. We're not really sure when we're going to be able to see him, but I know there's some talks about trying to, whether it's next week or the week after, whatever the case may be. We're chomping at the bit to get down there and see him.
Sean, you have the whole team you have to think about, but you also have individuals, obviously. They're all going to process it a little bit differently along the way, and there's going to be steps. How do you navigate through that? Because you have a message to the team, but you have to account for each individual, and you also have people on your staff who can help you do that as well, I imagine.
Yeah, I mean, I think we opened up Tuesday at that meeting with the entire team that everyone's going to handle this in their own way and have respect for each other. That in that regard, that everyone's going to deal with it in their own way. So, but having the counselors, I've been able to have some dialogue and communication with some of the other NFL head coaches who have been through traumatic events. Obviously, not one is exactly like this, but they've been great, from Joe Gibbs to Mike Tomlin, Romeo Crennel. I know a couple of our coaches have spoken with Marvin Lewis as well. So that, albeit unfortunate, those situations that have come up have been good resources for us, and will continue to be.
Sean, you talked about the mental health of the players, and you've talked about the mental health of the staff. What about the mental health of Sean McDermott? How important is it for you to also kind of make sure you're taking care of you?
Again, this isn't about me. I appreciate you asking, Josh. I'm human just like anybody else, and there's been moments, as we just had, that it overwhelms you, and it's come up more than a couple times for me at different points in time. But like anybody else, I need to be able to have enough self-awareness to know when I need a break and when I need to seek out a counselor as well. So I think it's important to know that that's not a sign of weakness. If anything, that's a sign of strength, and people need to know that out there.
Josh, as a follow-up to the question about the counseling that this team has gotten, you know the inherent risks of this game, not only just you, but your teammates. How much in those discussions, because this is such an extraordinary thing that we all witnessed, and the terror that was on yours and teammates' faces, does it change anything about that idea of the risk of going back on that field, knowing something like this, which you probably never fathomed could happen?
Yeah, and it's hard not to let it be, creep into your mind. We've been reassured this is the freakiest of freak accidents, and it took the worst possible timing for this to happen. But again, the mental aspect of it, going out on that field, if you have that thought, that's putting yourself at risk even more, putting your teammates at risk even more. And I know Coach is going to do a good job, and he's been doing a great job about making sure guys understand that and understand, mentally, like, you have to be bought in too. But, as Coach alluded to, as humans, it's hard to not feel that way. And but just to know that, again, the track record of the league, and obviously there's injuries, and that's part of the sport. And this is the worst possible case scenario you can ever think of. And again, we're just happy Damar's all right.
Josh, a lot of people have wanted to know stories about Damar. What is he like as a teammate? And do you have any stories that you can share? And what is he like to coach? And do you have any?
Again, he's in the locker room. He is the happiest dude. We play basketball, a little knockout before walkthroughs on Saturdays. He's got a good shot on him. But again, I couldn't ever tell you a story of where he was upset and brought it into the building. You just never saw him down. He was always positive. Again, and I know he switched to number 3 and the power of 3. This is the 3rd day since Monday night happened. And again, I'm a big believer in the prayer. Keep praying for him. being surrounded by a fantastic medical team. Again, our training staff responding the way they did. I mean, it all had to be pretty perfect from what we were told for him to have a chance and to know that, you know, he's going to continue to get better. We had to still keep praying for him, and we just got to get him back here.
Sean, in the big picture, what would have been a big news story with the NFL canceling that game, how much does it matter to you or this team at all at this point to you? I see Josh is shaking his head. I mean, it's
Canceling.
in the aftermath. Well, how much does it matter that the NFL canceled that game? Because it just seems like, it doesn't seem like much in the aftermath of what has happened.
No. It pales in comparison to what unfolded, and we're talking about human life, and that's the most important thing. We talked in the locker room after we went into the locker room, and we brought that up and said, you know, the ramifications could be X, knowing who was playing that night and what's with the seating and all that. But it was overwhelmingly in favor of doing the right thing for Damar and for the players in the locker room on both sides, not just the Bills, but also the Bengals, and felt strongly about that and still do.
Sean, you've been really transparent about your feelings, Josh, you as well. And I feel like before you talk to us, we've seen you smile a little, we've seen tears. Some questions have been difficult to reflect on, and we're just a few days away from an actual game.
Yeah.
Do you truly believe in your hearts that the Buffalo Bills are ready to play a football game right now?
Well, I'll start.
I do.
Yeah, I do as well. I mean, the news we received today in particular was a huge lift. And again, I respect these guys are the ones on the field playing. I'm standing on the sideline, Dana, so it's different for me. There's an added dimension for them on the field. So I'll just yield to Josh, and you can explain.
Yeah. Again, Mario talking to us as a team, and the things that he kind of told us, and really didn't tell us, he demanded us. You know, and you can't not honor his request to go out there and charge forward, you know, to the best of our abilities. And obviously we'll be playing with, I guess, less heavy hearts now, knowing that, you know, today's news was a lot of tears of joy, I'll tell you that. But to know that that's what he wants, that's what his dad wants, I think guys are excited to get out there.
Josh, you've been here for several years, experienced many live atmospheres with the fans. Just based on their support that they've shown via social media and otherwise, what do you expect the atmosphere to be like if you do indeed take the field on Sunday?
Yeah, a lot of 3 jerseys, 3 signs. You know, it'll be, I'm sure it'll be a little surreal to be obviously at home last week of the season. Yeah, obviously there's some stuff that we need to still talk about as a team and get through, but gonna have a good week of practice. And the last couple of days have obviously been tough, but they've been better, and we just got to keep moving forward.
Coach, same question to you. Just what do you expect the environment to be like?
Yeah, I mean, knowing our fan base and the connection that we have and that they have with us, I think it's going to be very emotional for everyone in the stadium, and B, I think it's going to be unlike anything I've ever seen before, and we're going to have to balance some of that, you know, in order to perform the way we need to perform. But we've spent a number of games this season away, kind of ironically enough, and this is going to be really good timing, if there is good timing in any of this, for us to be home finally and in front of our fans.
Josh,
You've talked a lot about how close this team is, and we see it all the time. But what has this week been like in terms of guys being there for each other? Like, how have you seen your teammates, or maybe something you've done to be there for a guy? Like, what has that looked like between you and your teammates this week?
Yeah, I mean, again, I think everybody handles, tough situations differently. Some guys need to be alone. Some guys need to be loved up on. Some guys just need to be around people, and some guys need to talk about it. And there's so many different ways that I saw that happening, whether it was in the locker room. I opened my home, and I had guys over. I just sent out, hey, anybody come over, we're going to pray. We're going to decompress a little bit. And that was good to get guys back. And for the first time in a few days, some guys actually smiled a little bit and knew obviously we were getting updates and trusting what we were being told by the doctors and Nate and Bean. But just a good chance for guys to be around each other, and again, just having some worship for Damar and his family.
Josh, it's been emotional. It could have been tragic, right? If you personally or the team collectively thought about now how this will inspire you, and not just week 18 beyond.
I mean, yeah, we've talked about it. Obviously, we wanna go out there and play for 3, and it'll be a huge driving force and the emotion and the love of the game that we play with and for each other. Hopefully we can get them back soon.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I do want to say one more thing. And I haven't reached out to T. I hope that, he got some relief today. And I don't know, I saw some stuff on Twitter, and people should not be attacking him whatsoever. And I'm glad that Damar's family came out and said that. And hopefully he found some relief today, because again, that's a football play. And I hope that he doesn't hold that upon himself, because again, there's nothing else that he could have done in that situation. So I just wanted to say that too.
We have Vince Morris and Dane Jackson up here shortly.